Hello everyone and welcome again to this Python course. So I'm going here for slicing indexes and let's study this a bit. So we've seen our indexes in strings in the past lecture, right? And how we can index elements inside our strings. Now we are going to see how we index multiple elements at the same time. Okay, so slices are really simple. I'm going for our variable. Remember that our variable is storing the word Europe, okay? So this is much easier than writing Europe all the time. We just store this in a variable and we work with that. I've called it variable, which is a bit dumb to call. Maybe I'll call it another something else. Let me call this our string, which makes a bit more sense. It's tied with the course materials and it's also more representative of what we are doing. So how can I access, for instance, these two letters, U and R, at the same time without doing multiple indexes, without first selecting U and then selecting R? Well, I can do that using our slices, okay? So super important. Again, we are indexing, square brackets, all the same, everything that we've learned, but now we have an operator that's really important, which is two dots that are normally called the colon. So the colon is basically something that lets me select from a specific position to a specific position. And how do I do that? Well, I can start on 1 because that's the second letter, right? This is the second letter that I'm going from until the letter that I want to. And in this case, it would make sense to select the 2. The thing is, when we use slices, we are always using the position above, okay? So the slice goes until the last element minus 1. This is a bit confusing, but it's how Python is organized. And don't worry, because you'll have the opportunity to work with these indexes a lot. If we go from index number 1 until index number 3, we are really selecting 1 until 2, okay? Because if I put here 4, I would go until 3. If I go for 5, I would go until 4. It's always n minus 1 in the slices. So if I run this, there you go, you are. Always remember this, you'll get always j. We can call this in this way. For example, our string goes from I to j, and the positions that we are indexing is always j minus 1. Think of it in this way. I'm going from I to j minus 1 with slices. So for instance, if I want to get the ROP, I have to go from the second index, from the second position, third letter, until the sixth position, that's index number 5. Because I'll get here and Python slice will go until this point right here. And if I run this, ROP, okay? So if I need to continue, if I want, I can go, for example, for the sixth index that doesn't exist in the string, because the string only has 6 positions starting on 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's no sixth element, but as we are indexing using a slice, we are really going for the fifth, okay, in the end. Always remember that slices go until j minus 1. I know this may be a bit confusing and you are thinking, oh, these are so many rules to get on our mind. That's true, but I think that with practice you'll get there, and these are the 3 major ones that we'll probably get with more time on our mind, which is index start on 0. When you index with the negative, you start on 1. And when you slice, you go until the last minus 1. These are 3 things that may become a bit confusing to code, but with practice, you'll get them in your mind as well. And also by looking at the result, you'll understand what you are doing wrong. There are other cool things that we can do with slices, but I'm going to go slow here, not going to show them in the context of strings. I'm going to show them in the context of lists that we'll get in a couple of sections. So another thing that we can do is go from the position until the end of the word, or from the beginning of the word. How do I do that? I remove the side where I want to leave as indefinite until the end. So for example, here I'm going from index number 2 until the end of the string, which will of course give me this rope, because the word doesn't have more letters, but I can do, for instance, from the first until the end, and I'll get rope. Okay, so I'll add another letter and I'll go until the end. I don't give a final index, and Python is able to index all my string until the end. Now, one of the cool things that I can do is do in reverse. So index everything from the start and go until, for example, until the fourth position. Can you guess what we will have here? Try to guess for yourself and let's see the result after that. Okay, so here we are basically going until the index number 3. What's index number 3? Let's go slow. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, not the fourth, because remember, when we have the index on the right side of the column, we are always going for -1. So what will happen is that we are going to select euro using this. There you go, euro. This is the type of string that we are trying to index. Now, remember, when we leave one of the sides of the column as blank, as with nothing, then Python is going to index everything until the end or from the start, depending on the side that we are speaking about. Work around with this on your own also. Do some small experiments with the indexes to understand how these indexes work. This doesn't have much to make a mistake. It's just going here and playing around with the numbers on both sides of the column and understanding what will happen. Okay. So additionally, what will happen if I try to select an index that's not on the letter, on the word? For example, Europe has 6 letters, so it has 5 positions, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What happens if I try to select, I don't know, the 10th index? Let's see, we have a mistake. The mistake is pretty clear, string index out of range. So it's pretty self-explanatory, right? What we are trying to do is index something that's out of range of our indexes. So our indexes go until the 5th position, right? If we go here, this is the last E. There's nothing else after this E. We are on the abyss looking down, and there's nothing else. If we try to go over the abyss, over a letter that doesn't exist, for the 6th position, we'll have an error. From here on, if I use the index number 1500, same mistake, there's no index in there, Python will let me know that. Okay, cool. So this concept of the slicing is pretty cool. Let's go for another concept, which is called the mutability property here of strings. I know this seems like a big jargon, but we'll understand it in no time. I'll see you in the next lecture.